Okay, so let's start with our motivation. So I was thinking how when we go to sleep at night, in the same way as when we die, there we kind of have the opportunity to, quote, quote, reset the state of our mind, because we go into a state of subtle consciousness, and all the chatter, all the preconceptions, all the emotions stop. And then when we wake up in the morning, we can start afresh and generate our motivation of compassion and bodhicitta afresh. And in the same way as we go from one life to the next, when we get born in the next life, again, generate compassion and bodhicitta and take that as our approach to life. And in that way, we don't carry with us all the burden of the things that have happened to us or the things that we have done and all of our emotions and thoughts about them, all that flood of thoughts and emotions and suppositions. Because we go into that subtle state of mind, like when we fall asleep, that subtle state of mind can't support all that mental chatter. So there's really an opportunity when we wake up in the next day, also when we wake up in the next life, to really generate our motivation anew. And I was thinking it would be good if we could do that during the day too. Yeah, so whenever something happened, if our mind went out of whack, we could just center it again, leave aside all the hustle and bustle thoughts, and then generate bodhicitta and re-engage with the world. So I think that's what we have to try and do. Even though we can't take little naps during the day to get in touch with that subtle mind. But to at least try to keep ourselves centered and come home to the motivation that really lights our heart up and makes us enthusiastic and hopeful and active. So that moment when we wake up is quite important, because if we're not careful, then we think, oh, what happened yesterday? And then blah, 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 blah comes back. Yeah. Whereas if we just wake up and in that kind of clear mind generate our motivation right away and stay with that. Yeah. Not carry our backpack full of heavy bricks with us. So I found there's a letter online that I saw. It was from the Washington Post, and I thought I would read it to you. Because it's, it was written, I guess this guy is one of the opinion writers for the Post. And this is kind of how he set his mind. And it really shows how we influence each other. And after I read it, I'll talk about how it relates to us. So it's addressed to Alfonso Calderon, who is one of the teens that went to Tallahassee to talk to Rick Perry, the governor, and the state.
Scott.
Yeah, he's the governor.
Scott
Perry? His no.
I don't know who's
Scott. No, Scott Walker's Wisconsin. Anyway, the governor of Florida. Yeah, maybe it's Scott Perry. So anyway, so he was one of the teens who went there and spoke. And, I've just personally been quite inspired by these kids and what they're doing and how heartfelt they are and how determined they are. So this opinion writer wrote him a letter, okay, to Alfonso Calderon. And he said, on November 8th, 2016, the world as I knew it was turned upside down. You remember what happened then? Everything I was taught about American politics was proved wrong. Everything I thought I knew, hoped was true about the American people, turned out to be a lie. The election of President Trump meant all those high-minded lectures on morality turned out to be generations-long exercise in hypocrisy. All that concern that the president uphold and honor and dignity of the Oval Office was bunk. All that reverence for the presidency and its customs and traditions was fake. All those decades as leader of the free world, as a bulwark against tyranny in general and Russia in particular, were abandoned. The country that swelled me with pride by twice electing Barack Obama its 44th president, the first African American entrusted with the White House, broke my heart by handing over the keys to a thin-skinned, twice-married adulterer, unfit for the office he holds and incapable of discharging the awesome duties that go with it. Every day since January 20th, 2017, we have endured a demoralizing deluge of drama and dysfunction from an incompetent president who was an affront to our nation's history and the men who preceded him. So I'm reading this because I think a lot of people feel this way. I mean, we get a lot of emails and stuff from people. To make matters worse, he one-upped the cynical tradition of presidents picking at the edges of our unhealed racial wounds by becoming a white supremacist bullhorn, barking nonsense about both sides and insults about shithole countries. That members of his presidential campaign are under criminal investigation is the cherry on top of the Minnie's chocolate pie that is the Trump administration. The horror you and your classmates experienced on Valentine's Day only added to my dark mood. Here we go again, I thought. The airwaves will be flooded with images of another devastated community, followed by anguished calls of do something that then segue into inaction and silence. After all, if not even the slaughter of grade school innocents at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newton, Connecticut, can move this nation to act, nothing can or will. But then you spoke. I'm going to try not to cry. Wear the tissues just in case. Within hours of the shooting, you and your fellow Marjorie Stoneman Douglas high school students were roaring with indignation. Within days, you descended upon Florida's Capitol bearing thunder. And it was there that you, Alfonso, said the words that gave me hope. And here's what he said, and I can't do it justice reading it. What we need is action, and we need it now more than ever, because people are losing their lives, and it is still not being taken seriously. I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know what it's going to take to get some people to realize this is more than just re-election. This is more than just political gain. This is more than the conspiracy theories and people trying to disqualify us for even having an opinion. This matters to me more than anything else in my entire life. And I want everybody to know, I'm prepared to drop out of school. I'm prepared to not worry about anything else besides this, because change might not come today. It might not come tomorrow. It might not even come March 20th, 4th, when we march for our lives down in Washington. But it's going to happen, and it's going to happen before my lifetime, because I will fight every single day. So now back to the author. Alfonso, your generation is one of instant gratification. Any question you have can be answered in seconds by the phone in your pocket. That you know your fight will not be won right now, overnight, or tomorrow, but will require dedication, persistence, and a long view is what brought tears to my eyes when I heard you speak, and as I type these words now. Despite the well-earned cynicism and skepticism of my generation and fellow political observers, that what you're doing will actually succeed, you and your fellow students and those who follow your lead around the country are my hope. You stand on the tiny shoulders of giants, just as the Birmingham Children's Crusade changed the trajectory of the civil rights movement 55 years ago this April. You are doing the same thing for the gun debate today. And then here's the text of a tweet that Barack Obama sent on Thursday, yesterday. Young people have helped lead our great movements. How inspiring it is, again, in so many, to see it again in so many smart, fearless students standing up for their right to be safe, marching and organizing to remake the world as it should be. Former President Barack Obama tweeted on Thursday, "We've been waiting for you, and we've got your backs." All of you make me proud. All of you are the America I thought I lost on election night 2016. Thank God you're here. With admiration and gratitude, Jonathan Capehart from the Washington Post. So, the reason I read that, is, well, you can see how you feel now, after hearing that. But how much we influence each other. And when we have a very discouraged, negative, bitter attitude, then that's how we influence everybody we come in contact with. That's our vibe, as we put it, and it radiates through the environment we're in. And that's why now, Venerable Wu Yin talks so much about serving society. And I think one of the ways we, in the Abbey, serve society is through our attitude and our outlook on life that comes across in the teachings and comes across in the BBCs. And that a lot of people look to us for, that attitude, which, just as what Alfonso said inspires us, then how, if we practice well, what we say can inspire other people. Yeah. And so when you think about how important motivation and attitude is, because it's the foundation of everything we do. It's not the act, it's the attitude, the motivation that's so crucial. That, if we work hard in our practice, then just how we are in our lives influences the people around us and all the people we connect with online. You know, and it's and that's our duty. Yeah, we don't have time for bad attitudes and bad moods and complaining minds. You know, there's too much suffering in this world to, spin around our own little tragedies. So, especially, I mean, we know how much people need a hopeful attitude now. So, this is what we've got to do and put forth. And, of course, encourage all these young people who are just amazing. Yeah. And Venerable Jigme and I occasionally, because our birthdays aren't too far apart, we get together and we pat each other on the back and say, our generation stopped the war. Yeah. And it's true. You know, we stopped the Vietnam War. It wasn't only us. Yeah. There were a lot of factors going in hand, but it was the fact that so many people spoke out and went on the streets peacefully. Yeah, you were there too. Yeah, were you there, Tanya? Are you old enough? Then to be there and do that, and to see that when people come together with a good motivation and you stick to it, you don't give up. I mean, after one demonstration, if you just back then threw in your hands and, then the war never would have stopped. Yeah. So it's the fact of just sticking with something again and again in a peaceful way, but persistent. And so that's got to be in our practice, how we stick with our practice, to work with our minds and how we, are in the world with each other and how we engage with the rest of the world beyond the Abbey. Mm-hmm. So that's what we got to do. And that's our way to contribute. So we stopped the war before. Yeah. So we got to stop the guns this time. And just, I mean, I look at those kids and I'm just so proud of them, because it just reminds me very much of our generation. We were young. And what is wrong with being young and idealistic? Why are all these people in the Florida legislature just poo-pooing these kids? What is wrong with being young and idealistic? Go for it. The world needs that kind of energy. Okay. Yes.
The counter question to that would be, why are they old and cynical?
Why are they old and cynical? Because they didn't do that reset of purifying things at the end of the day, setting them down, and then beginning anew each morning with compassion. They didn't do that. They carried with them everything. And it just stockpiled gunk that you carry around, and it makes you cynical. And it makes you feel hopeless. And it's all just the attitude. But that's why I had it the motivation, why each morning we've got to reset our motivation. And not just carry around, whatever happened or whatever we think happened, Whatever happened actually doesn't matter. Have you ever thought about it? Whatever happened doesn't matter at all. What matters is what we think happened. What matters is how we're relating to what we think happened. Yeah, because whatever affliction is arising at that moment because of what we think happened, whether it happened or not, is the crucial thing we have to deal with. Yeah, because lots of times, we're an afflicted thing. Somebody tells us what happened. It doesn't change our mind at all. We are stuck in our negativity and we just go on and on anyway. Okay, so that resetting all the time is very important, and living with an attitude and a very firm decision of I do not want to carry the stuff around me, or what I think happened in the past around me and all my emotions and gobbledygook afflictions. I do not want to carry that around with me. Yeah. Because otherwise, I'm not living my life. I'm living totally in reaction to what I think happened in the past. So it's all just in my head. It's all just make-believe. Yeah. The horror story that we author ourselves. Yeah. So that's why, the thing of coming back to our motivation again and again is so important. Yeah. Because otherwise, like this happened to me when I was a kid, this happened to me yesterday, this happened, then, we're not free. Our mind's totally trapped. And then if we start considering what happened previous lives, oh my goodness, then we can't even move. Yeah? And yet, none of that is happening now. And it really doesn't matter what happened. It matters how we are relating to the world now. And if we let all that old stuff just, be a filter through which we see the world.
It seems like resetting our motivation is a way to break the karmic chain.
Yeah.
And to take control over our minds and our lives and how our karma unfolds.
Yep.
So it's like freedom.
Yep. Yep. That's why it's so important. Yeah. Otherwise, who wants to just grow old and be a bitter old person? A bitter and a cynical old person. Ugh. Yeah, that's pretty miserable. Yeah?
I want to say what's very beautiful about the letter you read too was that it's, in my mind, sets up a lineage of, the encouragement coming from activists of the past and Barack Obama, who has been a community organizer much of his life, coming out to say, we got your back.
Yeah.
So it's very hopeful, that kind of intergenerational activism.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to help young people.
Right.
You have to have good mentors, people who help you see what you need to stick it through.
Yeah.
So that gives me a lot of joy.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I think Obama really gave to the country was that sense of, of hope and resetting things.